and thanks for tuning in. This is Mr. Strict Constitutionalist, and I'm going to do a recap of the Republican National Convention 2012. Friday, August 24th, I arrived in Tampa. Saturday, August 25th, I went to Paul Fest, and we got to the gates. It was supposed to open at 10 o'clock, and it wasn't open yet. So some people pulled up, opened their trunk, and started handing out signs, and so we stood there and waved signs until they opened at about 10:30 or so. Then we got a chance to talk with a bunch of other liberty-minded delegates and people there. There was a VIP lounge, so we were able to exchange ideas. I got a chance to meet Wayne Paul, Ron Paul's brother. And then on Sunday, August 26th, we went to the Sun Dome for the Ron Paul speaking event. We had a really great chance to meet with other Ron Paul delegates and liberty-minded delegates in the VIP lounge that was specifically for delegates and alternate delegates. And there I handed out super brochures that I received from my friend Austin, who I met at Paul Fest. There was performance by Amy Allen, who performed the Ron Paul anthem, and then Ron Paul got up and introduced his family, and then he gave one of his famous Liberty speeches. Afterwards, we went to Whiskey Joe's, a Tampa restaurant, and we had a photo opportunity with Ron Paul. I walked up to him and gave him a hug and said, "Thank you, Ron. Thank you for everything." He responded, "Thank you for being involved." Then I went up and talked to Carol Paul, his wife, said, "You know, we just love you." And I talked to Linda, and she said, "You know, we're just normal people." And I said, "I know you are. That's why we like you." Then on Monday, August 27th, the RNC was canceled due to weather. The weather wasn't bad at all. There was all of the talk about, oh, the hurricane this, the hurricane that. I talked to a lot of native Floridians, and they said, no, this is just what the weather is like in August in Florida. They knew that. So on Tuesday, August 28th, the bus that was supposed to pick us up was late, and then after it did get there were a lot of empty seats left that weren't filled, and they just shut the doors and drove off, and all of the alternate delegates were like, whoa, what's going on? And so we got together, and we got in some cars and drove and got a taxi, and we even got a ride from a Mitt Romney supporter. And other delegations, such as the Virginia delegation, who had Morton Blackwell on there, said that the RNC bus circled the RNC 3 times, making them late intentionally. The RNC rammed a bunch of rules through that basically turns the Republican Party into a dictatorship, allowing the presumed nominee to veto any delegates. And the chairman was actually reading the teleprompter and said, "Oh, the ayes have it," even though almost the entire delegation of Texas was chanting, "Point of order, point of order." And they were just totally ignored on at least 3 separate occasions. Several states, including Maine, were not seated and were instead replaced with RNC members. When the states announced their votes, when they went through and they took all of the votes, and when, the national committee man would stand up and say, 17 Romney for Alaska, 9 Paul, or I think that's what it was. The lady who was repeating them would say 9 Romney, even in states where it was an overwhelming majority that had Ron Paul delegates. So on Wednesday, August the 29th, Rand Paul went up and gave his speech, and immediately after, we all stood up and walked out into the lobby, got together and chanted, "As Maine goes, so goes the nation." We chanted very loudly. We marched around the forum, we marched out the door, past the police, the National Guard, the Secret Service, FBI, CIA, and private security, past the iron gates, down the street, several blocks, chanting for at least 30 minutes, which is part of why my voice sounds so hoarse. Then we split up into smaller groups and had dinner. On Thursday, August the 30th, there was a walk-in, which unfortunately I wasn't present for, and the Liberty delegates held a press conference. Then, when the convention started, there were some boring speeches, and I got up even before Romney got on stage to be worshipped by the masses. And it was a good thing that I did, because when I went out, if you'll watch some of my other videos, I found men in suits removing people from the RNC for chanting things like, "People over profits, women for peace." And I even saw them take a guy and they grabbed him by his necktie, yanked him around, and then the man in a suit, who was either private security or Secret Service, tapped a police officer on the shoulder and said, "Oh, he assaulted me." And then the police officer threw him up against the concrete wall, and then they whisked him down off into the basement. And luckily, I was there to film it because only about 4 or 5 people were even filming it. And I haven't found any other videos except for the ones that I posted on YouTube. Check out the links below. And then I left after that because I just couldn't take it anymore. And as soon as I walked out, I saw militarized police standing next to the police, and I started shouting, "You know, it looks more like Nazi Germany than America." And one officer even told me, "Oh, you can't stand right here on the sidewalk. You can either walk over there or walk over there, but you can't stand here." And I said, "Can you state the penal code that says I can't stand on the sidewalk?" And he said, "You can't stand on the sidewalk." And I said, again, "Can you state the penal code?" And then he walked down as if he was going to arrest me, even though he knew that I hadn't broken a law. And with things like the National Defense Authorization Act, I did decide to go ahead and back down because we were outnumbered at least 20 to 1. There were cops on bicycles, there were cops on horses, there were cops on foot. The cops had batons, the cops had handguns, there were cops with rifles. All of them were wearing brown shirts and brown pants. Does that sound familiar to anyone? On Friday, August 31st, I flew home to Alaska. And I would like to thank all of the delegates and the alternate delegates who were there in support of our liberty and our freedoms that the Republican Party was founded on. I would like to thank my friend James from Messenger for Liberty, link below. My friend Austin, who worked tirelessly to distribute super brochures to the delegates to inform them of their rights to vote their conscience. And my friend Russ Millett, chairman of the Alaska Republican Party, who was my taxi most of the time. And I would also like to thank countless others who are working all over the country. I've met many of you. We're all working to restore America now. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget to check out the links below. Rate, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share these videos so we can get the message out. And more episodes are on their way. Thanks for tuning in.